Welcome back to the Auto Week Racing Podcast. Matt Weaver with the 2020 Chili Bowl Nationals champion, Kyle Larson. Kyle, you're taking a look at the watch for the first time that's being given to the winners. We've got the miniature Golden Driller here, the trophy. Miniature, yeah. Compared to the one outside. Um, where I want to start is your victory laps after you took the checkered flag. You just kept making lap after lap after lap. What was that moment like for you, kind of taking it in, coming across to the rowdies, just they're being rowdies? I mean, was it a situation to where you were not going to pull off until you realized, oh, I got to, because victory lane's over there?
Honestly, I was trying to. I clipped my headphones and stuff to my hybrid device. I couldn't. I unbuckled because I wanted to like stand up while I was driving around and fist pump and all that. And I couldn't get my headphones unplugged like I needed to because every time I'd go to stand up, they were hooked on something that kept me down. I didn't want to destroy my new headphones. So I couldn't get it done. And I was like, fine, whatever. I'll do some donuts and be crazy. And then I'm like, well, shoot, I got my seatbelts off, so I can't be that crazy. But no, I did. It was awesome to drive around and see the whole crowd going nuts. I think they've wanted to see me win this race. As much as I've wanted to win this race. So I hang out every night with the Turn 2 rowdies there and watch the features and go out to the bars afterwards with them. So I've made some good friendships over there, and there's a lot of racers that are over there rowdies. So every caution I was looking over there to see if I needed any signals, but the only ones I was getting were the big lead signs. So that was nice. That was nice to see from them. But this building is just, there's nothing like it, and the fan support I've felt over the last probably over a half a decade now has been great.
Talking to Chase Briscoe earlier this week, he kind of foreshadowed this moment. He says the moment that you do win, and he thought it would be this year too, he says that place is going to come unglued and the roof is going to come off, and it was really loud. Did it feel like the way you imagined it all the times you talked about, I want to win this race, and it hurt last year? Is this what it looked like in your dreams?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's definitely there's been no other time I've kind of pulled in victory lane and felt that good and that much emotion. Maybe my first cup win, and even that, is a little different because Michigan, there's no roof over your head and the crowd's not on top of you. You're only with a section of the front stretch there. So yeah, this building was loud. It was great. I definitely felt the support, and I hope it's not the last time I get to experience that.
We had a conversation a year and a half ago at Daytona in July about the NASCAR fans versus dirt fans and how you can sometimes incite them, not intentionally. And then what were you thinking in Victory Lane with what you said when you got the Golden Driller in Victory Lane, the celebration? You know what that was going to do.
I honestly don't care. It's and I only have a few seconds during that interview to explain myself, and I didn't really get to explain myself. But it's just, this. I've been coming here 13 years, and I've felt like I've had a shot to win probably 7 or 8 of them, and or more, really, and haven't gotten it done, and especially lately, I've had a lot of heartbreak. So you just personally, to me, this race has meant a ton. I'm not in it for the money. Obviously this race pays $10,000 to win. Daytona 500 pays over $1 million probably, and so I'm not in it for the money. And this race, just because I've been so close to it, to winning, it just means a bunch. And I've led the Daytona 500. I've led coming to the white flag. I've led through the white flag and ran out of fuel before, so I mean that race means a lot too because of the heartbreak I've had there. But I've felt like I could do it, and I could, if I just needed to be perfect to get it done, and I think that's all that combined, makes this race extra important to me.
Now that you've won the Golden Driller, is it satisfying enough? Can you start dreaming about the other things you want to do, or now do you start to target Christopher and Sammy and Kevin and try to match their records?
I mean, I'm not even thinking about winning 2 in a row or anything like that. I'm sure maybe that'll come next year, but yeah, I mean, I want to win every race, and the next the next race I'm going to is Avalon. In a few days in Australia. So I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I want to win every one. I don't want to just circle big ones. I want to circle every race on my calendar to win. And next up's Avalon, and then Mount Gambier and the Classic. The Classic's a big one. A lot of people don't really, I feel like in the States, know about it. It's as big as the Knoxville Nationals as far as atmosphere and crowd and all that. So. That's one I definitely want to win. That's upcoming in less than a week now. So, and then obviously Volusia stuff, East Bay, and my NASCAR races. I just want to win every race. There's not like, I don't know. You just want to win every one of them, and if they're big, it's great.
And lastly, what is the future of Kyle Larson Racing, Paul Silva? You've expanded now to the midgets in addition to the sprint cars. Is this like your living legacy? Is this what your brand is going to be well into the future beyond even just your NASCAR career?
Yeah, I mean, I always, I want to be with Paul for the rest of my career, and I want to have a long career in NASCAR and all that. But I also, that when that day does come, when I retire from NASCAR, it's crazy, to talk about retiring, and I'm 27, and NASCAR fans, I'm not talking about retiring in the near future. Okay, I'm not even thinking in the next 10 years. So, but that day will come. When I retire, and I do want to go outlaw racing someday, and I want to do it with Paul Silva, and then I mean, as far as the midget stuff goes, I have no desire to be a mega team like Keith or Clausen's or Boat or Matt Wood now. I'm having fun, and like I said before, it's not about the money for me. So it's I've been with the big car teams, and I enjoyed it, but I'm at the point in my life, in my career, where I just want to have fun and do it with the people that I love and have confidence in, and I have a blast just racing one car. I'd like to think about maybe bringing a second car here, but I don't think I'd ever have a third car or more. I want to come in here with a realistic goal of having obviously one shot to win, but if I was to bring a second car, I want to have a second shot to win as owner. So we'll see what the future brings, but no desire to be a mega team owner.
Kyle Larson, 2020 Chili Bowl Nationals champion. Congratulations. Good luck out on the far west.
Yeah, thank you. We'll hopefully keep the momentum going well throughout 2020. Thanks.
We're back on the Auto Week Racing podcast. The first time we've actually done this. I want to segue now from Kyle Larson, the Chili Bowl champion, to the co-host of this podcast, Joey Barnes, newest contributor to Auto Week. This is your first Chili Bowl. It's my second, and I have to ask the obvious question, which is the question I was asked last year. What do you think?
This event is an absolute marvel. I mean, when you see the 350 plus entries that are in this field, and when you see the talent level of those 350 plus entries, and the fact that this is a 6-day marathon that comes down to just a pinnacle A main at the very end on a Saturday night, I mean, what more could you really ask for? And obviously, like we were talking about there in the infield, leading up to the A main, you battle all week, and you start to feel the pressure mounting and the pressure building, and then finally, when the lights lift, as they get done with those final pre-race introductions of all the drivers, you pan around and you see 20,000 deep in fans, and you just hear them roar, and you hear the pop for every single one of these drivers, and you just get goosebumps, and you just get chills. And it's literally next to the Indy 500, the most amazing experience and the most fun race to cover that I've maybe ever had.
I can't believe that we're having this conversation in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, actually, as someone starts dragging metal behind us, I can very much believe that we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But no, I can't believe that we're having this conversation in Tulsa because it doesn't have the same sort of sound as Daytona, Lamar, Long Beach, Bristol, any location that you would think has all the marquee names in motorsports, and yet you look at this A main. And this is as elite as they come. And not only just the stars of dirt racing, USAC, the World of Outlaws. You've got NASCAR representation here. You also have the World of Outlaws, NASCAR, USAC. I'm losing my train of thought because we picked the worst possible time to do this. But no, there is just so much talent here, and it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, you know what was surprising to me is the fact that Donnie Schatz didn't make the A-main, and you're looking at a guy that's a 10-time World of Outlaw champion. I look at this entire field, and I mean, I'm a little out of my depth when it comes to dirt racing, and I started to get my feet wet this weekend. I look at all these names that were in the B categories, B1, B2, and it's astonishing the guys that didn't make it. And you also, to that end, you look at the A-main and you see all of these drivers who are well and experienced, and you see the Allgaiers, the Reitzels, the Wyndhams, the Swindells, obviously the Christopher Bells and the Kyle Larson who took it home tonight, and the Rico Abruz. But you've also got guys who are growing and becoming superstars in this sport. I mean, I highlighted earlier tonight guys like Cannon McIntosh. I mean, making his second Chili Bowl appearance, first A-main appearance, first race with Keith Kunz Motorsports, and it's absolutely astonishing that this guy battled up there with the best of these guys, the guys that have won Chili Bowls, and gets a podium, finishes third. It's just amazing.
Let's talk about Kyle Larson. We've been here all week. We've had the good fortune of covering this year's Chili Bowls from start to finish. I got here on Sunday, you got here on Monday, and we both remember the opening press conference that we had with Kyle talking about the sting from last year. He was, one full corner away, 3-4, from winning this race last year, and Bell had got into him in 1 and 2, and won the drag race down the backstretch and cleared him in 3 and 4, and just stole it away from his longtime teammate and friend. And he said it took him a couple of days to get over, and it really stung. And this is a guy that has, led the Daytona 500 on the last lap, and I'm telling you, it didn't hurt the same way that this did. And to me, the most remarkable thing wasn't that he finally won after 13 years of coming here, mostly with Keith Kunz Motorsports, is that he did it after breaking away from Keith Kunz Motorsports, but also defeating Christopher Bell, which had kind of become his personal hex.
So I think the biggest thing that I take away from it is the air in this place was so dense and so thick, of just like this weird vibe, this weird energy at the beginning of the week. You could feel the pressure just building, and you could tell that Kyle Larson was feeling that early on. And then as we learned as the week went on, Christopher Bell also had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with things and certainly drove like it. But I can't help but think of that energy that Kyle Larson had when he got out of the car tonight, that just fist bump to the crowd, and just you could just tell that there was all this emotion. And honestly, for someone like myself, and even you could probably allude to this, we try so hard to see guys that just can bring this personality and this attitude and this energy, because at the end of the day, motorsports feeds off of that. And I really think that we saw that with Kyle Larson tonight.
Yeah, let's talk about Bell. I want to talk more about Larson, but I want to talk about Bell for just a minute. First of all, mad respect to the run he just completed, and he's not done yet. Listen, he's won 3 in a row, finished second tonight. So this is not some end of the road, so young. I know he's going cup racing next year. I don't see any reason why he will not continue to run the Chili Bowl for the rest of his life, because this is what both he and Kyle do. But I saw something from Christopher, too, that even though he's won 3 of these, this loss hurt. And I think this one meant maybe more to him than the 3 that he won, because this is the first year that he's in this joint venture with Chad Boat. They launched a sprint car team together under the CB Industries banner. They're working together under the Tucker Boat banner here in midget racing, and you could just see the dejection. I don't know if you got a chance to see him outside of the car, but the entire team were just gutted. And I thought to myself, this is the guy that has won 3 in a row, but Christopher, who's always been super, super selfless and has always talked about wanting to win for the guys around him, wanting to win for Keith Coons and Pete Willoughby. He wanted to win one for Chad. He keeps talking about how this is his best friend and his business partner. And I think losing this hurts in ways that was more powerful than the 3 he won. Do you agree?
I would. I think that when you've got somebody that has that kind of talent, that kind of capability, and has put up those kind of numbers, first off, I think the thing that I find most gratifying about the emotion pulled out of him in this defeat is the fact that it still matters. And what's the old saying, like, champions are never satisfied? And clearly he's not. And I think that could only be a good sign moving forward, because that means that he will always find motivation within himself, whether it's within records or what have you. He's always going to be a guy that's going to chase something. And I think that's such an important trait for a young driver to have, especially for a guy that's about to start his first season in Cup.
So now this is the conversation I don't want Larson to hear, because it's the thing that everyone's going to talk about more than the Golden Driller. It's what he said in Victory Lane. And man, Kyle could not stop himself from inciting the NASCAR fan base. For those who did not watch the broadcast, he jumps onto Victory Lane and he says, "I'm sorry, NASCAR. I'm sorry, Daytona, but this is the biggest effing race I've ever won." And listen, we've beaten this horse to death. I wrote a story a couple of years ago on Auto Week about how he loves NASCAR, and there's nothing he wants more, honestly, than to go out there and win races and championships for Chip Ganassi. But he spent his entire, early years on dirt. When he was a kid, he went dirt racing. It's the same way that for me, I went pavement racing with my dad. This is about family and legacy. Everyone has a race to them that is the most important race. I'm a pavement guy. I love the Snowball Derby. It doesn't mean that I am not deserving or I don't want my job in NASCAR and IndyCar, but I have a race that means more to me on a personal level. And this is just another example of Kyle just showing how much this race particularly means to him. And I don't think that's a slight to NASCAR, but people are going to take it that way anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly fully agree with you on that end, because who are we to judge what's most important to an individual? Some people do want to pursue a Daytona 500. Some people do want to pursue the Indy 500. And some people want to pursue the Chili Bowl. At the end of the day, you've got a guy like Kyle Larson who's actually in a spot to chase anything he really wants to. And first off, mad props on being that kind of talent and gifted, and to find those kind of opportunities to where that's even possible, because I think that the motorsports world can be incredibly vicious, right? At the end of the day, everybody can judge and everybody can be in the back seat and see these things, and many of us couldn't even put a full lap together in anything, let alone maybe even a turn. And I think to see these guys work is masterful, and I think that they should be able to chase and pursue whatever thing that really matters to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take it a step further. I hate that we're living in a racing world now to where everything is so segmented and divided, because obviously I think it's fair to say that you're an IndyCar guy at your heart, right?
I would say so, yeah.
I am at my heart a stock car guy. You could even make the case that I'm probably more of a short track pavement stock car guy. I get the chance to cover NASCAR. I've been to a couple of F1 races. I'm now starting to cover dirt. I'm falling in love with midgets and sprint cars. And I hate that we now live in this racing world to where everything is just so segmented, them versus us. And I think that I will choose to focus more on the fact that Larson and Bell and Allgaier and Donnie Schatz and Santino Ferrucci and Connor Daly and anyone who's from any other discipline that's not USAC-style midget racing came here, and that's the coolest part about the Chili Bowl Midget Nationals is there's no other racing event in the world that has more diversity than this. And like I said to start the show, they're doing it in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think about is the fact that how many drivers are just looking for opportunity to start with. We had a divide in motorsports to the point, and even still we do, where logistics, contracts, etc., keep people from being able to kind of race other things that they want to race, cross-promote, and just help grow the sport as a whole. Hopefully we can kind of break that barrier down one day. But that's part of the reason why opportunities have become limited, and that's why you see guys like Connor Daly for 2 years churning out on dirt tracks and taking any opportunity he can get with IndyCar teams. And here he is, and he's getting ready to have the 13 of 17 race schedule here at his fingertips with Ed Carpenter Racing. Obviously, you look at a guy like James Davison. We all know from his 2017 Indy 500 that that run that he had in Seb's car. After Seb crashed, he comes in with a car that was Frankenstein together, takes us to the front, and with 17 to go, he's running sixth until he gets caught up in an accident that wasn't even of his doing. But he's never had that full break either. And what do? They try to find any ride they can. And in Davidson's case, he just happens to be running every Crown Jewel event with Daytona and Indy this year, and obviously the Chili Bowl tonight. I mean, what more can you say? It'd be nice to see those things happen more often if the logistics and politics would kind of pull by the wayside.
So we've talked about the winner and we've talked about the second place, and really those two guys are the face of this race right now. Obviously, Rico Abreu is in that mix too. But let me run down the order real quick for anyone who's listening who has either forgotten or just don't know. Larson won the race over Christopher Bell. Cannon McIntosh in third, Logan Seavey in fourth, Rico Abreu rounds out the top five. Jonathan Beeson, Michael Kofoid, Blake Hahn, Ryan Bernal, Tucker Klossmeyer are the top 10, followed by Tyler Courtney, Thomas Messero Timez, Sammy Swindell, Chris Wyndham, Jason McDougall, Zach Dahm, C.J. Leary, Spencer Basin, Shane Golobic, Michael Pickens, Justin Allgaier, Tanner Thorson, Aaron Reitzel, Colby Copeland. That is your 24-car rundown from the 2020 Chili Bowl Nationals. Is there anything, running down that list that stands out to you as remarkable? And again, you've been here all week, so you've had the opportunity to see the journey from start to finish.
I mean, there's a handful of runs that caught my eye. Obviously, I alluded to Cannon McIntosh earlier in this broadcast, but I look at somebody like Tanner Thorson, who obviously 10 months ago got in that nasty car crash, was hospitalized, had some really bad injuries. 10 months later, he ended up winning the Friday night prelim. I mean, that is about as phenomenal as it gets because, last night's prelim, you could have ran that A-main and this A-main. It was just a fully stacked lineup. So to me, that was a huge feel-good story. Enjoyed that. It was good to see Timez get a chance to make this because there was some uncertainty there, obviously. And then obviously
well, you say obviously. Let's actually talk about what happened. He races his way into the show on what night was it? They all run together.
I think it was Tuesday. Was it Tuesday?
Tuesday or Wednesday. He had finished second. He finished second in his prelim, and he couldn't even go to the press conference room. He had a family matter to attend to immediately in Indianapolis, and he wasn't going to get back until Saturday. and he kept running into flight delays because the entire Midwest is being blanketed in a blizzard right now. There is a chance that the Team-Ez might not even make this race, and he comes back and has a solid run. He ran into some stuff like everyone does, but you're in the Chili Bowl Nationals, the main event, and to get a top 15 out of it, 12th place, that's more than admirable.
I would say so, considering that, I mean, he didn't make the pole dash, and he automatically had to start 10th. He didn't get really much of a feel for his car outside of the little hot laps, unlike everybody else that was in the top 10 that had a chance to go out there and make some collective runs during that pole dash. So for him to kind of put it together, I think it was a heck of an effort. And honestly, I like that run. Sammy Swindell, I mean, what more can you also say about that? I mean, he finished just behind in 13th, and this is a guy that's 64, made the A-main, and you looked up a stat earlier tonight. What was that stat?
This was his 25th A-main start in 30 appearances in the race out of 34 that have been held altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that's just ridiculous. And to think that he outdueled guys that in the B1 and the B2, I mean, young cats that clearly had some pace. I mean, I look at Dylan Welch, who really had a hell of a run. TV guy who he likes to say on his Twitter profile, you might see him run mid-pack at a midget race somewhere. He almost was right in the thick of the fold and looked like he was poised to break into the A-main, just one spot short of a transfer spot in the B. Obviously, Donnie Schatz was another one. I mean, 10-time outlaw champion wasn't in this, and Sammy Swindell still found a way to get it done in his own house to make the A.
Hashtag still winning. I think this is where I want to close. I think we're going to try to keep these at 30 minutes for now. This is the first podcast, so I apologize for all the shortcomings. We're going to work on this. I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to do this with Joey. We've been talking for 5 years about working together, collaborating, and doing some sort of program in motorsports media. I think the last message I want to deliver here is why you should come to the Chili Bowl Nationals. And I'll start. Point blank, if you're a fan and you come here to buy a ticket, more than likely you're not going to be able to buy a grandstand seat. That's the reality of it. So then naturally the next thing you'll say is, then why should I come here if I can't see the racetrack? There is general admission seating. You got to know some people who know some people. Fight your way in there early in the morning. But I will tell you this, if you can get here early on Saturday morning and grab you a general admission, it is so worth it to be here all day. I know that you look at the O main, the N main, the L main, these are names you haven't heard of. But this event is so much fun to follow on Saturday. It's like bump day over and over and over again for 12 hours. It's the 12 hours of Tulsa. And beyond that, the coolest thing to me is that I have a lot of fun watching the racing, but I have just as much fun walking around the expo hall and seeing 355 cars and their teams. It's one half trade show like PRI in Indianapolis. It's also one half world-class motorsports event like the Rolex, where you have all this diversity. And to be able to walk through there, interact with the teams, and that's the last point. You can walk up to Kyle Larson, to Christopher Bell, to Donnie Schatz, to Tony Stewart, as long as he's not manning the track out there with the tiller. You can walk up to Sammy Swindell. You can walk up to Justin Allgaier, Chase Briscoe, anyone that you watch on TV that's here. And there's no PR rep. There's no barricade. There's no handler. You can have access to your favorite drivers, and they're willing to talk to you. They're here for a week, and they only race one day a week. And for the most part, they're happy to be here because they're selling merchandise and they're interacting. And I've always said that when you come to Chili Bowl and you interact with these star drivers, this is not NASCAR drivers, Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson. This is our old friend, Kyle and Chris. And I think that if you're a part of this, it's all family. Once you come to one Chili Bowl, you become part of the family. You get embraced. Everyone treats you like you're their cousin. And I think that's probably what I would want to ask you, Joey. Were you made to feel like you're now part of this Chili Bowl family? It was called a cult earlier when we were talking in the infield. Have you been indoctrinated into the Chili Bowl cult?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think It was surprising to me, my first Chili Bowl, and even though I was so out of my depth on so many levels, that everybody was so helpful to A, get me up to speed, but also it was just such a relaxed atmosphere and so inviting and so friendly. And it really kind of throws it back to why we love this stuff in the first place. Sometimes, I mean, this is my 8th season covering racing, and I'm not going to lie, there are times where you get jaded and kind of lost in the wash a little bit with some of the politics and all the little tactics and games that kind of go into it, and you just kind of lose your head a little bit and go, what the hell is going on? And this kind of brings it back, reels you back in, and kind of just recharges you and gives you a reason, gives you reasoning back to why you love it. And I think that's number one. And the racing, everybody joked that you never see a bad midget race, and I'd be damned if they weren't right, because I'd say that every single race this week was phenomenal, and luckily everybody was safe. That was the number one thing, because seeing this stuff, usually we only ever hear about the bad if you've never been to one of these before, but seeing how this stuff works, how it goes, it was an absolute blast. And all I can say is that this brought back a lot of the purity that sometimes the sport misses.
On that note, I just want to say Happy New Year's to everyone. New podcast, newautoweek.com, new season, a lot of new races coming up for us. We've got the Rolex 24. We're going to be talking about it, writing about it. The NASCAR season's right around the corner. IndyCar starts after that. We cover a lot of different things. We're doing Supercross. I do a lot of dirt as well, the World of Outlaws and USAC, and we're going to be talking about it all. And I think that, stick with us, because this has the potential to be a lot of fun. We've been talking about racing together for years, and we kept saying, this should be a podcast. This should be a podcast. And finally, the overlords at Auto Week and Hearst Communications are piecing this thing together, and it seems like we're almost there. And we're going to talk about a lot of racing, and it's going to be good conversation. And it starts here at the Chili Bowl. Kyle Larson finally breaks through, gets the Golden Driller. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again after a while.